Hello and welcome everyone. My name is Hector Del Castillo and I'm Chief Product Officer at Byond. And I'd like to also introduce you to Lori Wiggins. Lori, how are you doing?
Good, Hector. It's great to be here today.
Great. And Lori is CEO of Byond and she will be today's speaker. And the topic for today is 7 ways to make your business thrive during a down economy. So today's discussion will be focused specifically on helping you as business leaders position your company to thrive despite of less than optimal economic conditions. And as an opening, a little bit about Byond. And Byond is, we actually enable technology and software companies to transform and grow faster than the competition. And we do this by coaching, training, facilitating, and also often being able to involve teams and not just the executives of companies to help them transform and grow faster than their competition. If you are on social media, here are our handles and also our profiles, our company profile on LinkedIn as well as Twitter. And if you're sharing anything, we'd like to encourage you to share either pictures or any information that comes out that you want to share with your followers using the hashtag RecessionProofMyCompany. And with that, what we will be discussing today, and this is where where Lori will be discussing, is all the material we're going to be covering. And I'll be also kind of intervening as discussing maybe some case studies about some companies that we're tracking that have been doing some of these steps that we're going to be discussing in today's discussion. So Lori, take it away.
Thanks, Hector. So let's discuss our current economic situation. First, an economic slowdown is supposed to happen in the next 12 to 18 months. Now, there's various opinions about exactly when it will happen or the depth of the recession, but it's coming. In past recessions, the big worry was the economic slowdown. However, since our last recession in 2009, we now have more uncertainties. We face more risks. For example, in the technology area, not only the pace of technology change, but cybersecurity and public trust concerns. With the economic area, not only the slowdown, but we have trade wars that add another dimension of uncertainty. In the social area, we're looking at inequality, and many people worry about their work in the future. With respect to our planet, we need to think about the effects of global warming, which have tentacles that affect many industries, clean water availability, and mass pollution, such as plastics pollution. It turns out that downturns often affect small companies more because they're not as resilient. They may not have the financial resources that larger companies do. Also, the cost of capital, which is low now, will rise with the downturn. So if you're thinking about making investments, now is a good time to secure capital. Also, it's not all bad news. See these companies that were founded during a recession: Hewlett-Packard, FedEx, CNN, Hyatt, and Burger King, among others. So, if you can start a business and be successful during a recession, why can't you prosper during one?
That's a very interesting point, Lori. One of the things that I wanted to point out is that if you look at the last recession we had here in the US, that was back in around 2007, wasn't it?
Yeah, 2009. Mm-hmm.
2009. And basically how long it's taken us to sort of it's been a very slow recovery. And even now, industries like the airline industry just barely recovered last year officially when they actually declared that they actually have gone back to the volume of flights before the recession struck. And it's kind of interesting to find out that also if you look at historically, when was the last depression we actually had here in the US? How long ago was that? How many decades ago?
In the 30s.
Yeah, so that's been over 50, 60 years already. And you're looking as to how many living CEOs of companies today have gone through either a recession or a depression.
Certainly a recession, but never a depression.
That's
They're
correct.
all gone.
And even though there may be some companies that actually have been around since the Great Depression, now they're on their second or third or maybe fourth CEO since that Great Depression.
Yeah.
So I think the challenge of what we're talking about is real, because we would expect that there are very few, if any, living CEOs that have actually experienced and turned around companies in the process of either going through a recession or a depression. And that's what we're talking about right now. Is, many economists are forecasting that the next downturn in the economy is going to be worse than the last recession we had here in the U.S.
Well, if that's the case, then it makes sense, and it makes it even more important to take the steps that we're talking about today.
Yes. So
let's see what those steps are. 7 ways to thrive in a down economy. First, the early bird catches the worm. Start now to prepare. Take the long view through the recession and into the recovery beyond. Go for growth, thrive, don't just survive. Focus on technological competitiveness. Use M&A to shape your business as needed. Communicate, and traps to avoid. Start now to prepare your company. Bain & Company performed a study that looked at 3,900 companies and their performance during the last recession. And they noticed a distinct difference in performance between what they dubbed the winners, those with the best performance not only during the downturn, but through the recovery, and all others. It was clear that the winners planned before the recession started. They prepared their companies, and we'll talk about how. And they were able to not only do much better than their competition through the downturn, but that powered them to even outdistance them more during the recovery. Also, they were able to get ahead of the power curve so that they were not forced to react when a crisis occurred. They were already prepared. This is a chart from the Bain study. So you can see during the recession off on the left there that winners were able to achieve a 17% growth versus their competition at 0. After the recession, they continued to power forward at 13%, whereas their competition was at 1%. Note that this recovery was a long, slow one, and so their competition had poor growth for a number of years. Looking at the 07 to 17 10-year time frame, at the end of it, the winners came out 14% ahead as far as their annual revenue versus the losers at 0. Significant difference. Just to bring this point home further, looking at the value of the companies of the winners in 07, comparing winners and losers at roughly the same value, the winners' strategies over 10 years ensured that their companies were much more valuable. As a matter of fact, their companies were 3 times more valuable than those of the losers. So the planning and the strategies that you're putting in place now pay off for years to come. Hector?
So one of the examples is Southwest, and Southwest has been the #1 airlines for the last decade, almost over a decade now. And even though there's been significant consolidation in the airline market here in the U.S., mostly because of competition coming from abroad, and then new competitors also starting in US. Southwest has managed to remain number one, and they were not first to market. As a matter of fact, they came in when there was a slight downturn in the 70s, because they were formed over 40 years ago now, and they actually were able to come into market and start scaling their business once they actually had proven their business model and it was scalable. And the main unique differentiator for them was that they were going to be a cost leader, but also being on time and a budget but on time airline. And when they started their business model, they didn't compare themselves to other airlines, which were larger at the time. They were actually competing when they started locally with other alternatives of mass transportation, such as the bus and train system. So once they started scaling the model and transferred the same practices into the airline, they became number one and profitable. And even now, with the fiasco of the Boeing Max, and they actually have ordered some planes waiting for them to be able to fly again, they were able to actually now continue to sell without having to disrupt their current route system that they've had, because they now have had to go into contingency plans to continue to use their airplanes a little bit longer until they're able to fly the Boeing Max planes once they get clear to be used again. So that's an example of a company that actually has been maybe forward-looking, doing a lot of the planning, and actually being early adopters of technology that actually have had multiple contingency plans that they've had to use at different times in order to be able to thrive and continue to grow and become more profitable than their competitors.
Another thing that Southwest was able to do during the last recession and afterwards, they were able to lock in fuel costs at a low rate.
That's right.
Whereas their competitors had to pay market rates, and they saved hundreds of millions doing that.
Yes.
Preparation is key. Let's talk about the long view. First, a crisis is a terrible thing to waste. If the downturn reveals vulnerabilities in your business, take advantage of that and address them. Use the downturn as a way to create urgency within your company. Enlist your people. This will help you drive the changes that are necessary in order to succeed during the downturn and afterwards. Further, what do you want the company to look like through the downturn and say 3 years into the recovery? What is that vision? Starting with the end game in mind. Now, work backwards and lay out your plans so you know where to invest and you know what you need. Prepare to not only survive but thrive and outperform your competitors through and beyond the downturn.
So Caterpillar is one of these examples of another company that actually has been very proactively looking at how to continue moving ahead of the market to even try to reduce the risk of all those disruptors that have also been coming in to target the same enterprise customers that they have. And they actually have done significant spending on not only R&D initiatives to actually be able to introduce new products, but they're actually also even reinventing the way they manufacture in order to create more and increase their operational efficiencies as to how they make and cost reduce what they're making without having to lose the value and the core competencies of whatever their equipment offers to their customers. And as Caterpillar is now a global company, it actually has been challenging and actually remaining competitive across markets, even when there are multiple competitors in different markets trying to go after the same customer with similar equipment as to what they offer. Today, they have a great roadmap in the way that they're planning on now not only creating an IoT Internet of Things where you can actually remote control their equipment, their machinery, but they're also looking at even doing self-guided vehicles so that you don't have to have an operator immediately there, but you can actually monitor what's going on and making sure that there's no issues, and then looking at safety and also continue to remain in doing the point of what the equipment is meant to do. Whether it's for farming or whether it's for anything else that they're selling into, they're actually looking at self-guided vehicles and then be able to do a lot of the remote management and remote controlling so that you can actually have operational efficiencies that they're offering to their industrial customers.
So the next point in order to thrive in a down economy is go for growth and thrive. Don't just survive. First, restructure your costs without cutting muscle. In other words, just cut the fat. We've got a couple of ways to do this. One of them is restructure your costs, which means decreasing spending on lower value processes. Look at what you're doing today, your customer processes, your business, and your back office processes. What is it that's not bringing you value anymore? Don't put any more money into it. Think about discontinuing it. Also, reduce the volume and complexity of the work done. More complex processes typically cost more. Simplify and streamline as you can. Manage your balance sheet so you can fund the investments that you need. Tightly control your cash, your working capital, and your capital expenditures. Working capital, of course, is your current assets minus your current liabilities. This is the liquid cash that you use in order to keep your business going. Where can you streamline your liabilities and reduce them? Consider divesting non-core assets. Underlying all of this, of course, is the need to have your accounting and finances systematized so you can understand and control your costs and plan ahead. Streamlining your operations, understanding the key drivers of your business and improving them continuously. Perhaps you've heard about business process management. This is where you look at all of your processes and you figure out how to do things better with the same amount of resources. You can bring on new tools, and we're talking about above and beyond spreadsheets, or add automation. Once you've freed up all that spare cash that you had in all those nooks and crannies, now you can figure out where to invest in your business. Talk to your sales team. Who are your top customers? Who are your top prospects? Really focus on providing them with more of your business. While your competitors are cutting back on your marketing, you're going to continue investment as well as increase if you possibly can. Improve your customer experience.
So, Lori, if I get the gist of saying going for growth, it really is about not only looking at your top line, which is your revenue and the growth in revenue over time, but it's also to figure out how to go around kind of boosting your operational efficiency so that as you're reducing costs, you're doing so while still maintaining the value proposition and the unique value proposition that you're still offering to your customers in the market.
Exactly.
And that increases the profitability of the company, maintains the customer experience, and the customers happy that that you have the quality and the value that you're offering for the price.
That's critical.
And that your company over time not only rises in revenue, but also the profitability of the company also rises because you're also looking at working hard at your operational efficiency, the productivity of your people, and then also the processes and automation of processes and systems that you're adopting for your business. Is that right?
Yes.
Perfect. So one of the examples of another company that is highly profitable and actually one of the first companies to be valued at $1 trillion, in addition to other companies that have since achieved that milestone, it is Apple. And Apple, in a latest survey, has found that their brand identity is so strong that in many cases, consumers are actually trusting the Apple brand more than their own banks, whatever bank you have. And that's actually a survey that was done here in North America. It was published at the end of last year. And as of now, because of that, Apple has been looking at now creating their own financial products. And the first one that is right now is in beta testing, because I understand that right now it's about to be launched sometime later this month. But right now it's being beta tested by their own people, their own employees, is this virtual card. So they actually have teamed up with Goldman Sachs, and that's the bank behind it. So they're actually going to be launching this MasterCard that is a virtual MasterCard, and you don't have to go to any bank to sign up. If you're an Apple user and you have any of their devices, now you would have an option that through the Apple application that comes already installed in your device, whatever that device is, whether it's a computer, a laptop, or a phone, or a tablet, you're now able to opt in and actually sign up and get pretty instantly notification as to whether you've been approved to open up a MasterCard with the credit limits and the terms disclosed. And so now Apple is doing this on their own, and now they're doing this in partnership with Goldman Sachs. You will not see Goldman Sachs in front because you'll see the Apple and the Apple Pay system behind it. And the MasterCard is actually that new product that they actually are introducing, where they're now looking at providing financing products to provide better payment terms to any Apple users that are looking to continue buying additional Apple devices.
So it's a great example of how to improve the customer experience.
And for them, it's not Apple is not their core play, right? It's just another revenue stream that they're creating that actually creates more efficiencies, add more value to their customers, because they make it very easy for them to sign up and then use that that payment system to actually buy more Apple products if that's what they want to do, or get more content from iTunes or whatever it is that you have in order to be able to do that. And that's some of the things that we're looking at in Apple.
Let's focus on technological competitiveness. Technology advances are reshaping all industries. No industry is going unscathed. The interesting thing about downturns is they tend to amplify or exacerbate differences between winners and everybody else, to use Bain's term. And technological advances and investments that you make now could very well put you even further ahead of your competition. Technology advances wait for no one. Whatever place in the economic cycle we happen to be, technology advances forwards inexorably. So if you put your technology advances on hold, you will slide behind and join your competition. Instead of cutting back, increase your R&D spending.
So one example of a company that has been doing this and using technology, and actually they're already introducing Internet of Things solutions for the home, is IKEA. If you look at the offerings of IKEA, they've been for a long time a leader in selling furniture, and now they already have their own plan in the roadmap to start introducing home appliances and furniture that is smart connected. In other words, that you'll be able to track your assets as well as being able to interact with them in a way that you haven't been able before, because none of these devices have been smart or connected in previously. Now they're actually introducing across every category, and look for a roadmap that's going to come category by category, where you're going to start be able to see some of these new furniture items that are going to be available at IKEA and only at IKEA. The other thing that IKEA has done so brilliantly is that now they're turning their product, which most of us will say, hey, we're going in to grab our next chair or our next bedroom when we're going in to buy anything at IKEA. Now, as opposed to buying it, they're actually providing also better terms, because now you're going to be able to lease or at least pay over time some of the items that are available, and that's all going to be financial products that IKEA is offering, and actually they're doing all of these things simultaneously in order to maintain their place in the marketplace and be able to deal with other disruptors that are coming in now, especially here in North America. you're now able to buy online and also be able to interact with them on mobile apps, and then be able to also then manage whatever products you're buying from IKEA.
Use M&A to shape your company as needed. Recessions are not only bad for things, they can also create opportunities, but only for those that have the vision, the financial resources, and can move quickly. If you're looking to buy new product lines, you want to get into another customer segment, or you need additional capabilities, it can be a good time to do that. Also, as some of your competition is not going to make it through the recession, some are willing to sell rather than go out of business. And if you have your eye on one or more acquisitions, but they've been too expensive, you may find that they are much more reasonably priced once the recession is underway. So that means position yourself so that you can take advantage of that. Also, due to layoffs, talent that may not otherwise be available could join you and help you in your strategy and planning and execution. Competition, as we've talked about, some people are not going to make it, so your competition may be reduced. Also, sell if you think that pieces of your business no longer serve you now or they don't fit your vision of the future. Let's communicate with everyone. Communicate with your employees, first of all, so that they know what the plan is, so they know where things are headed. Let them know that you value their input. Encourage innovation by challenging them to find other ways to do things better, faster, or cheaper, and reward good ideas. If you're the kind of leader that's directive rather than collaborative, you might think about modifying your style, since the collaborative leader can draw more input from others, and this can help you. Also, communicate with your financial resources, wherever you get your money, if that's a bank, if that's PE, or other private lenders. Let them know the plan so that they can help you. Likewise, with your supply chain, maybe they have ideas about how you can streamline your products, your services, or other places to save money or gain efficiencies.
So, Lori, one of these examples, and before I get into one of these examples, is, and I think one of the challenges is that most small businesses and mid-market companies are impacted by this, the fact that many of their employees are actually disengaged. And I don't know, a recent Gallup poll that was actually published says that more than 60% of the workers in US are current, no matter what company they're working for or the size of the company, they're disengaged. So how do you deal with that when you're dealing with a workforce that is, where 60% or more, in some cases, are disengaged? And I think that the points that you bring up focus on that, but it assumes that sort of like you have the right culture. One of the things that I wanted to point out is that in order for you to actually ensure that you have more and more engaged employees, as a business owner or executives or leaders within your company, you need to start promoting productivity. And that is, promote those employees that are productive and that are fully engaged, because they're going to be your allies, and they're going to be actually focusing on getting other people to actually start, they become leaders within companies to start getting the right people, so that whenever you need to have multiple teams in order to execute on some of these things that we're talking about, you want to make sure that you have the majority of your people are productive and they're engaged.
Most people get up in the morning wanting to do a good job at work. Part of this is education and helping them be more productive in the workplace by showing them techniques and ways to do that.
So let me get into here a discussion regarding Chick-fil-A and McDonald's. McDonald's has been around for a long, long time. They're actually a global company. Chick-fil-A is a younger company, but has been growing really, really fast. And actually, for the fifth or sixth time this year, they're actually on the one of the best quick service, and they actually have made the chicken sandwich a thing in North America. And they actually have been growing and opening up new locations. Recently, there was a study that actually looked at the profitability location by location, and location by location, Chick-fil-A is the most profitable compared to any other quick convenience food service, even above McDonald's here in North America. And the simple fact is that they actually focus on, number one, promoting and rewarding productive people that actually are great at greeting and meeting people and making sure that they say, "Can I help you?" and "Thank you" whenever they're getting a request from a customer for either a substitution or some accommodation when they have some sort of issue, and they're enabled and empowered to do these things without having to go to the manager and then make you feel welcome, and actually, once you the experience that you get when you go to Chick-fil-A is that you want to come back over and over again. And even though in their business model, by decision from very inception, they decided that they're going to be a place that they're going to be closed on Sundays, they're still the most profitable when they're only operating 6 days out of the week, and usually on a shorter schedule than other locations compared to some McDonald's that are open 24/7, for example. So if you want to do something like this, it can be done. And once you have the right vision and you start getting the right people to start implementing and executing your vision, you can become and thrive, even though you may have lots of other competitors of all shapes and sizes in any economy.
It's interesting that you draw this comparison, because McDonald's over the last few years has been making big changes in its service.
Yes.
And they've had this initiative underway for a couple of years now, including ordering kiosks, drive-up service. Now their burgers are made with fresh beef, and other innovations. And in 2018, they actually improved their global sales 4.5%. So it will be interesting to see how these two companies do in the future.
Yep. And if you look at the main thing is that McDonald's, they're sort of competing in the quick convenience, but when you look at people who prefer a burger, they might go to McDonald's or some other competitors when they're mostly going in for a burger with a drink. Whereas Chick-fil-A, on the other hand, they're basically targeting people who don't want burgers. They want an alternative, and that is the chicken sandwich.
Uh-huh.
And even though they do have other competitors that focus mostly on chicken sandwiches, they've actually have taken a lot of the same practices that McDonald's is applying to their entire menu. And even as McDonald's has been expanding their menu, most people are walking in for a Big Mac, a burger, right? Whereas people that walk into Chick-fil-A, they're mostly walking in for a chicken sandwich.
Oh.
So that's the interesting, that the fact that in this market, in a market like in North America, you actually have pretty big segments that prefer chicken sandwich compared to a burger, and they will walk into different outlets based on that decision when they have an alternative of quick convenience ways to be served the same type of item they want.
Let's talk about things to avoid. First, don't bury your head. Many times when humans are faced with something scary, and an economic downturn certainly qualifies, they either ignore it and hope it will go away, or they run away. Either response will not help you. As a matter of fact, instead of spending needless cycles worrying and wringing your hands, the best thing to do, and it will certainly save you energy and time, is to face this challenge head on. Remember that your company, your employees, and your vision are all on the line. So it's important to take action and not stand by. Your competition, who is going to be sheltering in place and hoping they survive the downturn, will be cutting their technology investment. They'll be slashing their marketing, and they'll be chopping their R&D. Don't do that. You're going to not only maintain, but hopefully increase your spending in these areas, because you know that recessions provide unique opportunities that you can take advantage of. A good example of this is Stanley and Black & Decker. In the last recession, Stanley had its eye on Black & Decker, but they were too expensive. They saw the synergies in both customers and costs. Well, during '09, Black & Decker was not doing well. Their revenues had dropped by 22%. Their EBIT had dropped by 40%. And Stanley, who had been preparing for the recession, went in and bought them at a discount in 2010. Stanley had already been taking cost-cutting measures, and with the financial resources they freed up, they were able to grab Black & Decker. Stanley, Black & Decker have been profitable and doing well ever since.
Yeah, and I want to point out that in this example, it's a great example of you can't afford to procrastinate. And often you have to be very proactive in order to actually start identifying and seize the opportunities, because M&A opportunities don't come often and they don't come every year. Right? And there's only a very short window when you can actually execute, because things may change pretty quickly. And I'm talking about, within a quarter, things can change significantly. Right. And so it's really important, I think, to your point of what we said earlier, is that you want to start early. You want to start doing this as early as you can, prepare. And once you're prepared, you start looking continuously and understanding what are the right opportunities to say that you can't pass up, and the ones that you can afford to maybe wait a little bit longer. But the ones that are M&A type, because they don't come very often, they only have a very short window of opportunity, you've got to seize those opportunities as they're being presented when they're the right opportunities.
Absolutely. Recessions provide those unique opportunities. That's why it's so important to plan ahead and be prepared. So let's recap. The early bird catches the worm. Start planning now. Take the long view of what you want your company to be through the downturn as well into the recovery. Don't just survive, thrive. Go for growth. Plan for growth. Focus on your technological competitiveness. Use M&A to shape your business as you need to. Communicate with everyone that you think might be able to help you realize your vision. And finally, don't do what your competition is doing. Go forward aggressively. So, we always like during our webinars to leave people with things that they can actually execute on right away. So here's our suggestions for you. First, what do you want your company to look like through the downturn and 3 years after? Identify the things that you need to do. What's your strategy? What's your plan? And what are the resources that you need to accomplish it, and how are you going to get them? Socialize your plan as needed to get feedback and buy-in from your executive team, your employees, others, such as advisors, and then execute aggressively and be even more revenue generating. Now, we would like to alert you to upcoming Byond events. On September 18th, we're going to have a panel on this very same topic. We'll have technology, financial, marketing, and sales experts to join us and discuss how to make your business thrive. Please join us in Tyson's Corner. Contact us or see our website or LinkedIn or Twitter sites for more information. On September 20th, we'll be at the PMI Symposium talking about what things great M&A leaders do. On November 13th, we will have a half-day growth strategy workshop. Somewhere in the DC, Maryland, and Virginia area, we're nailing down the details of that right now. We'll have a number of folks come in and show you how to develop your strategy just in time to execute in the new year.
And one of the things I want to point out, Lori, is that we're about to launch our events page, and we'll actually be sharing that link to everyone who registered for this webcast. so that you actually can view all of these and also some of our most recent events that we've had, where actually have always we capture slides, video, or a podcast in some cases, and you'll be able to view any of our most recent events there, in addition to upcoming events. So be on the lookout for that link to our Beyond Events page, and we're about to send it out to everybody, and then also launch it for anyone interested in looking at not just our upcoming events, but also recent events.
Right. So if you missed a past talk, then you can go to our events page and listen to it, or see the slides, or both. Lastly, in December, we'll be at the IG3 conference in California. For more, feel free to contact both of us. We would love to talk with you further, and we provide free consultations. This concludes today's webinar. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much. We really enjoyed it. And if you have any questions, feel free to email us or contact us directly via LinkedIn. Connect with us. Let us know that you were here, and then we'll be more than glad to answer any questions you might have. In addition, that we can also then set up a brief introduction call to kind of discuss your business situation and let us know how we can help you.
Have a great day.